Today on Ranting from the Kitchen, the old man's going to rant and rave about the changes on Facebook. Have you checked it out lately, this new beta Facebook that they're presenting? Oh, it's wonderful. If you don't want to find out where you were, where you're going, or where you've been, or who you posted with, or who's your friends, or how it works, may I strongly suggest clicking the button that says, "Come to our new Facebook." I would believe that after, well, people of my age at least, 30 seconds, are going to punch the little button and a whole menu is going to come out and they're going to say, "What did you not like about our new Facebook page?" Well, first of all, it's confusing. Second of all, everything is moved around. The colors are changed. And if you weren't really prepared for it, it's a shock. And I do mean a shock. Now, I do a show on Facebook every Sunday night. And it's just 15, 20 minutes of me, doing the usual ranting and raving about either politics, religion, or whatever. And I couldn't even find where to turn the dumb camera on so that I could record the show to put it on. This is so confusing. But I know that some college student who graduated with honors, or maybe he just didn't graduate, but was a real nerd, that Mr. Facebook's organization said, "Oh, H&R needs you immediately." And it was a great fit, I'm sure. Had a wonderful idea on how to keep his job by coming up with more changes on Facebook. The government's chasing Mr. Muckleberg, or however you'd like to pronounce his last name, and I really mess up pronunciations, I admit it. So I feel bad if I, stumble over his last name. So I just call him Mr. Facebook. Now, Mr. Facebook and I are probably never going to be friends, simply because I feel that this is a real nasty platform. When you look at the effects it has had on the world, when you look at the effects it has had on selling our personal information to third party. Now, oh no, they said they never did that. In fact, he went to court, as you remember in some of my podcasts, ranting on the Disruptors Podcast Network, that that was a simple situation, and he was going to take drastic measures immediately to combat that opinion by America. That's what his $1,250 an hour attorneys told him to say when he was facing Congress. Of course, they make money and nobody knows who they are, and they do represent him very well. They give him that input, that feed, that drive that makes his stroking his, shall we say, intelligent ego really stand out to the American public. But the track record's in there, Mr. Facebook, and it hasn't been very good. The government's upset with you, Europe's upset with you, and now the old man in the kitchen's upset with you because I can't figure out what I'm doing, where I'm at, or, as I said before, why Facebook's made such dramatic changes. If they want us to go away, that's fine. But I think if you look at the analytic factors, Facebook is suffering because a lot of the young kids have bailed ship. They've left. They've gone to Snapchat or other video or even platform bases that are more the younger generation, and they seem to think this is really groovy. We don't want to share time with old people on a platform. Like, man, we gotta have the end thing. We aren't interested in the geriatric people in wheelchairs that have tablets who are now coming on to Facebook. At least that's what they imagine in their minds, I'm sure. And I'm sure that some of the older people kind of liked it with the younger population disappearing because there was less garbage in their minds, which really wasn't garbage, by the way, but in their minds that upset them. So how do you hit a happy balance? Well, I'm telling you right now, if this is Facebook's answer, it's very confusing, and I hope that their surveys will help them fine-tune it considerably. So that's the old man's rant from the kitchen today on Facebook. Got some other exciting news I want to talk about. First of all, I'd like to thank the Fruitland Grange in Puyallup, Washington. I enjoyed 2.5 years with the Fruitland Grange in different offices and in working with them to get the Grange up and running again, and it was a lot of fun for sure. And I would like to thank all of them out there and the new officers also that have taken over and wish them the best of luck. The Grange is the foundation of our communities, especially where I live out here in Puyallup, Washington. The Grange has been an historical site for over 81 years of service, and it's served the community proudly and with what I call a real family feeling and spirit. And today, of course, things have changed, we have Game Boy, we have all those unique electronic game boards and systems. We have the internet now where a lot of us just tour around the world in either podcasts or postings or in different platforms and enjoy it. So we've been pulled away from the actual community spirit that built the Grange back in the 1800s. It's hard to believe that the Fruitland Grange, as I mentioned before, was built in I believe it was finished in 1936. Now, I could be wrong. I know that in 1932 and in the earlier years of the 30s, the groups up on top of the hill, which was the farmers in Puyallup and down in different areas of the Puget Sound, got together and formed different granges that spread now all over the United States. And their mission was family getting together, unity, having a place that they could share and have good times, but also a place where they could take conversation and turn it into action. And you found out, if you look really close to the history, that they've done an awful lot in agriculture. They did an awful lot in the safety through legislation, which today they work very hard on with our legislators in Olympia. Now, the farm concept is fading. That's true. In the new generation, that big M word that I can never pronounce right, is completely into the world of Oz, as I call it. It's actually called the internet. And their thinking has completely changed. Education's changed. Their attitudes have all changed. And I'm going to have to say that even though I'm a little bit older than they are, not much, mind you, but I can see that through my parents and their parents, how things have progressed, how technology has taken over, how everything we do now is really, really wrapped around technology today. And it's hard for some of us in the, shall we say, wonderful golden years of senior citizen to be able to I would say, connect with and work out the fine points of high-tech technology. I'm pretty happy I can get on Facebook, and I do a little podcasting as let's start a conversation. I mean, I may have done a few shows, like 7 of them, and over 7,000 hours of podcasting so far. But I mean, that's great. But there's so many other things that we have to look at. Now, one of the things that I always think about, you know how when we first started flying jet passenger airlines way back I believe it was back in the golden era of the 50s and the 40s, that was really something when passenger airplanes started. And when they could take 100 people and fly them from Seattle to Texas or any other state. And then as aviation has grown and grown, and more people, larger aircraft, more busier airports, in the development, the world has shrunk. But wait, when we added the internet back in the 80s and started building the internet and the connections and getting the equipment rolling and the price and computers dropping and the capabilities of internet activity just sporadically grew at paces that no one, I don't believe, ever expected. And that, too, has made the world a lot smaller place. You know, back in the 1960s, I can remember articles that came out and talked about the one-eyed monster that sat in your living room. The one-eyed monster that came out in the scene right around about, I would say, 1946, 47, when it was really starting to get the roll, was a television set. They brought out characters like Howdy Doody, the news. They brought out weather forecasting, cooking in kitchens, and the list of activities that the actual broadcaster could do was like Pandora, opening up a box of miracles of actual content that could be shared in everybody's living room. Different types of shows and advertising, and now a lot of sports, For those that can't make it to the Super Bowl, of course, at the prices the Super Bowl was this year, I don't know how a lot of them made it there. But now you can sit at home and watch it. You can watch your favorite sports teams. You can even actually do a little bit of anything that you wish on the television, because we've added cable and special networks, and we have really, really come up with solid reality TV, which is a big change from the days of I Love Lucy. But here's another interesting factor that we look at. When you look at the actual changes that have happened in the world of media, not social media now, I'm talking about media, you will find something amazing. The amazing part is that the radio, that's right, that simple radio that's in your car, that simple radio that you listen to on your smartphone, that all has become and still is the main media of conversation in the world. Now, I know you're going to say, wait a minute, no, Facebook is. Well, Facebook is in a different situation because it is social media, which is different than the old days of just strictly audio media. Now, we got FM that came, and we have AM talk radio, we've got music radio, we have educational stations throughout the United States. I think iHeartRadio is probably one of the strongest network of different radio stations throughout the United States. And they still today hold 47% of the market. Did you know that? 47% throughout the years. Now, television is sitting at 53% and it's still strong, but it's starting to lose the battle. And who is it losing it to? YouTube and Amazon Prime, and the list goes on. Because now the opportunity for people to get onto YouTube and actually build a YouTube channel, which they can build into a career that makes money, is phenomenal. And it doesn't cost big money. Now, today, this podcast, I'm talking to you off of a Samson Q2U microphone. And it does a wonderful job. 10, 15 years ago, that microphone development would have costed an average person anywhere from $200 to $500. Today, it's under $100. So you can see how things have changed. The quality has changed. Software has been inexpensive. Apps now on the telephones and smartphones are developing, and the costs are coming down. So now everybody can talk and hear and voice and start communications or conversations. Now, I'm going to take you a flashback to 1970s. In 1970s, there was a thing called citizen band radio. Well, actually, citizen band, which came to be much sooner than that. It was back probably in the 50s originally. Was basically designed as citizens using a radio that would have a reach of about 10 miles. And, of course, the FCC had a limited power outage. So you would have 5 watts of availability. Now, what was nice about this is small businesses and hobbyists really got into the CB mode. You had to have a license, you had to take a test, and everything was going fine. Right about 1968, things started breaking loose. The FCC could not control fast enough getting licenses out, and a lot of what we call pirates appeared on the citizen band or 11-meter channel, and they were coming up with a whole new language of their own. By the 70s, the world had broken loose. The FCC gave up trying to license everybody because there was thousands of radios being imported from Japan and all over the world that were inexpensive. The U.S. market caught up. Motorola dropped their prices. Bearcat came online, and the list goes on. There were a lot of entrepreneurs that invented antennas and different systems so you could reach out further with more power. And the rage of controlling those channels. Now, when I started out in citizen band radio, which was roughly about 1971, I had an old radio that had 4 crystals, and all those radios at that time were crystal frequencies. Today, of course, with electronics, it's now ICC and chips that actually work like the old crystal work, giving us a variety of many frequencies. In fact, it got so bad that citizen band radio